Opening up the mailbag, are the C's just gritty now? How's their defense look? How long can the Celtics keep their core? We'll look at the playoff picture, an all-star game in Boston, and a whole lot more right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, Heat John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I've got you covered every single day, Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts whenever they play on weekends. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube. Get into that comment section. Join the conversation. Become an everydayer. Join me every single day because you are a rabid Celtics fan. You want the best Celtics coverage possible. I am going to give it to you right here in the Locked On Celtics podcast. I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. And today I'm opening up the mailbag. I like to do this at least once a week. So you can send me your questions. Go to johnkaralis.com/mailbag. That's how I get the questions. johnkaralis.com/mailbag. Send me your questions. I try to answer as many as I can here. I'm going to start throwing some overflow onto the YouTube shorts. I'll do that. So I'm going to try somehow to get all of these questions answered. So go ahead, send me the question. Let's start with Clayton. Let's start with this most recent game. Do you think the Miami game brought out a grittiness in the C's? Think it's long overdue for us to start punching back. Brought it out. I don't know if it brought out a grittiness, but you know, maybe a little, maybe it drew some of it out. I would love to see the Celtics play with that little bit of grit, with that little bit of like anger, a little bit of, I want to say it in a way that won't get me in trouble and I won't have to bleep it out. So I think you know what I'm trying to say. That little bit of that KG, I think, is probably the best way to put it. Just don't be afraid to mix it up. And as Jaylen put it after the game, own your spot. Own your spot, right? Hold your own out there. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to go out there and be Dillon Brooks, right? That you don't have to go cross over that far. But you know what? If someone wants to roll up to you, okay, sure. You want some of this? Not a problem. We can go if you want to go. And just having that attitude, it's a quiet kind of like, oh, we want to go this way? No problem. Let's just crack our knuckles. All right, let's get down. Let's get into the mud. I love that. I just love that kind of basketball. But hey, I grew up on the 80s NBA. I grew up on some elbows and, every once in a while, yeah, you got to test the veracity of somebody's kidneys. Hey, that's how it goes down low, right? I love contact. People used to say basketball is a non-contact sport. But nah, it is if you look close enough. So, yeah, I think the Miami game surely kind of exposed the Celtics a little bit more to that side of the basketball. And the fact that Porzingis loves it, the fact that Holiday's here and he can kind of play into it. I'd love to see Jaylen kind of play into that. This team has been a little too finesse for my liking, but the league is finesse. So I don't want to make it, this is just the Celtics thing. This is a finesse league. And this kind of like get dirty, not dirty like try to hurt somebody, but like I said, get down into the mud, right? Get your hands dirty. Get out there, throw some elbows, nothing trying to get hurt. Again, not trying to hurt anybody, but, box somebody out and let them feel it. That kind of stuff. I'd love to see that element of the Celtics come out. They started a little bit with Ime, and he has that type of demeanor. And so they play to the coach. And, Joe Mazzulla, I like what Joe Mazzulla is doing. And he has some of that too. he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He doesn't mind getting down and getting into the mud himself. But he is a very modern NBA style of basketball, which is a finesse style of basketball. So there's a balance there. I don't know that Miami has brought that out as a regular thing, but I hope it's brought it out as far as an element of the game that they can go to. I'll put it that way. Christian asks, hey, John, given the Celtics' recent performances, would you say that they only play up to their competition? No, I would not say that. I think it's important to understand the context, the league, the timing of all of this. Now, I understand, obviously, history is what it is. The Celtics have had issues before. And I'm not sitting there saying that people are wrong for letting their heads get to that spot. At the same time, I want you to understand that this is a different team. It's a different year. Everything's different here, minus Tatum and Brown. But everything else, think about how much has changed over the past couple of years. You get Derek White, your starting lineup, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, they're all relatively new. I still consider Derek White new. Hauser, Pritchard, Al Horford. Al Horford's kind of like old and new. There's a lot here. There are a lot of elements here that are different. Missoula is new. They brought in Xavier Tillman. He's going to have an interesting impact on this team. He's a hardworking dude. He's going to have an interesting impact on this team. January, February, this last stretch heading into the All-Star break, I've been telling people this is the doldrums. People, it's not a secret. Everybody talks about it. This is not a secret in the NBA. This is where teams that are at the top of the league, I've probably said this 5, 6, 7 times on this podcast. Teams are at the top of the league. By the way, this episode brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for first deposit match up to $100. It's hard in the league for the good teams to keep it rolling because once you know how good you are, you're like, okay, we've gotten to this spot. We know how good we are. We can win these games without being, 100% effort. Guys have admitted this. Like Kristaps Porzingis, I'm so thankful for Porzingis. He said this. He's honest about this stuff. It's like, yeah, we know we don't always have to bring 100%, and we're still going to win some of these games, right? And it's about winning the game. There's no style points. If they beat Miami by 50 or by 4, they still get the same. It's the same win. It's the same loss in Miami's column. That's it. You don't get extra credit. So they know how good they are. They've said, Porzingis has said, it's hard to, you don't always want to wake up and be like, put your gladiator hat on and be like, we're going to attack the world. Some days you're like, you get millions of dollars and all that. But some days it's like January and you're like, it's freezing out. I'm tired. We just played 2 games. This is going to be 3 and 4 nights. I'm exhausted. And it's, I don't know, the Pistons. You're like, I'm just going to go out and shoot some threes, man. And hopefully they fall. And if they don't fall, we'll play hard in the fourth quarter. We'll play hard for 10 minutes and we'll get the win and we'll go home. And you're sitting there thinking like, well, John, that's kind of crappy. That's not the best attitude. Like, of course it's not the best attitude. But you know what? In the end, if you get the win, it doesn't matter. I hate to tell it to you this way. It doesn't matter. You don't get style points. You don't get extra credit. And we want to sit there and frame it as bad habits, which is valid because you don't want to get into the habit of saying, oh, I can do this easy. I don't have to, like, you say, oh, if I only have a 15-minute commute to work. I'm going to wake up 17 minutes before I have to go to work. It takes me a minute to brush my teeth and put my clothes on, and then, I go to work and whatever. But then, you leave yourself no margin for error. You don't want to play that game. So it's a dangerous one. I understand that. But as long as it doesn't progress. I think we have to just accept that this is how it goes. And it's not just the Celtics. You know, people got all up on, the Celtics for not beating the Wizards, and I was part of that a little bit, but it's like the Wizards also played like Cleveland tough. Like the Wizards have lost, and they don't win very often, but it's not like they always lose by 50. Some of those games where the Wizards are close against other good teams. So it's not just the Celtics. So everybody just take a step back. They're winning. They're the best team in the league by like many games. Just enjoy it. How good is this defense? How long can this core stay together? Those questions and more coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest, best, most fun way to play daily fantasy sports. It's you against the projections. It's not you against the experts. It's not you against someone that's just there to take your cash. It's you. You pick more or less than the projections for 2 to 6 players. You get them right, you win money. And now you can win up to 100 times your money. And you only need to get as few as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 because it's demon time on Prize Picks. Demons and Goblins are the newest, most exciting way to play Prize Picks because they have the little squares marked with red demons or green goblins. They stand out. They get you different payouts. You can win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks. How easy is that? You can have fun going across leagues. Now, obviously, football is over, but congratulations to the Chiefs, by the way. But you can combine basketball and hockey. You can buy a bunch of different, they have a lot of different sports. You can go to European golf. You can have all sorts of fun. I know a lot of the listeners aren't even from around the United States, so you can probably find sports that are in your time zones. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. If you're new and you want to just make your first deposit, use that code LockedOnNBA. You get a first deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit up to 100, you get 100. So check it out. prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Look for those little red demons and green goblins. Maybe you can get a nice extra payout plus your first deposit match up to $100. prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. You can find it on Amazon Fire TV as well. Man, we're just growing leaps and bounds here. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7. Top stories of the day, local experts, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today right now on Amazon Fire TV. That is so cool. Let me get my graphic right on YouTube and get back to the questions here, which we'll start with, how does the defense look? It comes from Andrew. Well, the defense, I think, is looking better. He also wants to know if they make some adjustments in order to make a deep run. I think they're in the process of making those adjustments. And that's one of the things that this regular season, it's an element. I talked about it on yesterday's show, but if you didn't hear yesterday's show, one thing that I think goes, and I know I haven't talked about it that much, but I'm talking about it now. The Celtics use these games and situations, these tight situations like against Miami, different matchups like, oh, here's a team that likes to shoot a lot of threes. Let's try this defense. Here's a team that likes to play fast. Let's try this defense. And just throwing little things out there. So every once in a while, when you find yourself saying, what is Joe doing? Why is he playing these two together? Why is he putting this? Why is he, like I said yesterday, why are they putting the ball in Jaylen's hands down the stretch? Why are they doing this? A lot of it's experimentation. A lot of it is getting game film in situations that they don't get to practice, right? You don't get to recreate these things in practice with the level of intensity that Miami was playing with, or that Washington was playing with, or the craziness of the Indiana Pacers. Like, you don't get all of that stuff in practice. You can't replicate that. So the Celtics are like, Joe Mazzulla, I know for a fact, is like, woohoo, look at this craziness. I get to experiment. And it's where you should. When you're a 40-plus win team, that's an opportunity. I think that's good coaching to take that opportunity and say, hey, look, We're going to use this other team as kind of a tackling dummy. This is like a practice. This is, you might as well throw those gold mesh things on, the reversible jerseys, and be like, hey, you guys are the green team now. We're the white team. We're going to switch it up. Can you guys run just a full court press on us? Let's see how we do that. Like, they might as well. It's almost like summer league in a way, not to be disrespectful to the Celtics opponents, but in those situations, some of the stuff that they're doing, especially defensively with the zone, that's just kind of like, hey, let's try it. Let's work on this on the fly. The Celtics went to zone a lot against Miami because they wanted to see how it would go. Not just because they wanted to, like, oh, this is how they're going to stop Miami. They are experimenting. So the defense, I think, looks good when it's engaged, like in the first half of that Miami game. It's really good. And they are making adjustments. And I think those adjustments will be part of a deep playoff run. And they're in the process of doing that right now. Vin says, I'm a 12-year-old diehard Celtics fan from Brisbane, Australia. Man, that's so cool. I love this. Hi, Vin. Hello, Brisbane. I love Australia. I can't wait to go to Australia, by the way. That's going to be fun. I should let everybody know that I'm going to Australia, all the Celtics fans. Maybe I can find people can buy me all the beer and meat in Australia. All the Celtics fans can kind of help me kind of eat and drink my way through the countryside. Anyway, Vin, how are you, buddy? Given the Celtics are above the second apron and they have the second most expensive starting five in the league, how long do you think this main group of guys can stay together? Great question. It's the $1 million question or the $160 million question. I think this group, as constituted, has one more year potentially together. If they win a championship, great. I think it makes it more likely that they'll just bring everybody back. Brad Stevens can chill, go on vacation for a couple months because there's going to be no way he can make any moves. So kick your feet up, watch some cartoons at the Auerbach Center, do whatever, and chill out, because being above the second apron, you can't make, there's like a ton of limitations, right? Can't aggregate salaries because you can't do 2 for 1, right? It's got to be 1 for 1. You can't send cash. You can't do a lot of different things. The matching is much more exact. It's tough. So if they win a championship this year, run it back. If you win a championship the next year, maybe you run it back again. You say, hey, let's see how long we can just let it ride. If you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I'm sure Vin doesn't, but like people who watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they get stranded in the woods on their way to Atlantic City, and Charlie and Glenn end up hitching a ride with the trucker to Atlantic City, and Charlie just throws his money on black and just keeps on winning. That's just let it ride. Keep going. Let's go. I think that's where the Celtics are going to be. The more they win, the more they let it ride. So I think but if they don't, then they're in trouble. If they don't win and it's because of themselves, if the Celtics fail to execute in the playoffs for some reason, then I don't know if they go 2 years, right? At some point, this is all going to have to go and change. It's unfortunate. I hate to say it. This year, obviously, next year they can do it. The year after, big question marks. But as long as they are winning championships or like right there, I think they're just going to let it ride, and it's going to be minimal changes to the roster, but that's it. A couple of questions here. Enzo and John. Enzo says, with the AllStar game coming around, means the end of the season is soon. What team should the Celtics fear in the playoffs? John gets a little bit deeper, talking about Philly sliding in the standings with Embiid out, but are you worried about a possible first-round matchup with the Sixers and most likely Eastern Conference Finals and NBA Finals? So it's so hard to say this. I don't know. When you say who's most likely, it's so hard to determine. Like, who are they going to face in the finals? Who knows, man? Timberwolves are first. Clippers, Thunder, and Nuggets are all a half game back, right? 36-16, the Timberwolves. Clippers are 35-16. Thunder and Nuggets are 36-17. I'm going to put my money, if I have to put it down, it's going to be on the Nuggets. I don't trust the Timberwolves. I don't trust the Thunder. And the Clippers, I don't trust the Clippers because of Harden and injuries. So my money is still going to be on the Denver Nuggets. So I'll say that as far as the NBA Finals. In the East, so much can change, but New York has made their run. They lost a couple of games, but am I worried about the Sixers in the first round? No, I don't think they're going to fall that far. I don't think they're going to fall into the play-in. So I still think they're going to be in that 3-6. So Boston first round matchup could be Chicago or Atlanta. I'm not worried about any of those teams. If it's Pacers or Miami, those are Miami's going to be annoying. I'm not worried necessarily. I'm really not worried about any of these teams. I think the Celtics are the best team in the NBA. Like, I can't say this any more clearly. I'm not moved by recent quote unquote struggles. I'm not moved by that. I don't think they've struggled necessarily. They've not played as well, but it's different. I think this team is a championship team. Been saying it from the preseason. It's not, I think they could win a championship. I think they are going to win the championship this year because I am not afraid of any of these teams in the East. They are all significantly flawed. None of them can guard the Celtics if they're fully healthy. The only team I'm worried about is the Celtics and their health with Porzingis. If Porzingis gets hurt, then that changes a significant amount. But I am not worried. I'm not worried if it's the Sixers. Yeah, Embiid can come back, but he's going to be rusty from all that time. And the Celtics know how to defend him. I don't think that it'll be tough, but I don't think it's going to come down to that. First of all, if they get to the conference finals, then Celtics Sixers, still take the Celtics. I take the Celtics over Denver. I think the Celtics are, I know Denver came into Boston and won, but the Celtics did a lot of good things in that. So who am I afraid of in the East? Who do they match? They match up against everybody. Maybe New York will be tough because they're big and strong, and Milwaukee will have every team's going to have some difficulties. But I cannot say this any more clearly. I am not afraid. I am not afraid of any of these teams. That's it. Celtics should win the championship this season. Now, we're going to come back. Questions about the All-Star game. We're going to get into, let's see what else. Well, Eddie Paladino. We'll talk about Eddie Paladino. We'll talk about a bunch of stuff. It's all next. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, I'm a big proponent of therapy. I think people can benefit a lot from therapy. You can get something off your chest. Very simple. You can go and just talk to somebody and be like, I'm in a relationship where somebody is being annoying. I am at work where somebody is being annoying. I'm having trouble with certain things, and just getting it off your chest and talking to somebody for a little while can be great. Maybe you're sad about your favorite football team or basketball team, and it's interfering with things. It could be that. It could be something much more serious, something you've been dealing with for a long time. Either way, you can go to BetterHelp because BetterHelp is designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule, entirely online. No driving around, finding whoever is in driving distance from your house or from your office. It's just all online, right? BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. You get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. You go, you fill out a questionnaire, you get matched with a therapist. Don't click, you switch. No problem. That's the best part. You need to click, and if you don't, you switch. That's the key to therapy. Very simple. Click with your therapist and go to a therapist. So get online, get to BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. You get 10% off your first month. Thank you for making. Got to do that first. Sorry. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out Locked On NBA. I normally host on Wednesdays, not this week though, because the Celtics play. But normally I'm on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. So Locked On NBA covers the whole league, has a lot of fun with it. So this is going to be a fun week with the All-Star game and All-Star Saturday. So check out Locked On NBA. It's gonna be it's always a good show. Always a good show on Locked On NBA. Let's get back to the questions here at the mailbag. Again, johnkaralis.com/mailbag to ask your questions. johnkaralis.com/mailbag so you can ask your questions. Let's get into Freddie, who asks, why have second round picks become so valuable? Have the new CBA rules driven teams to invest more in low-cost developmental role players? Yes, that's part of it. Sure. First round picks are, it's easier to trade second round picks than first round picks. There's a swath of the draft. Once you get past 20, like picks 20 through like 40, there's not a ton of difference in there. Maybe like 25 through 35. In that range, there's not a lot of difference. I mean, obviously 20 through 40, as you get closer and closer and closer, like the worst pick is like 27, 28, 29, 30. Those are the worst picks in the draft because there's really not much difference between those guys and the 30th, 31st, 32nd picks in the draft, except those guys get guaranteed contracts at the end of the first round, and the second rounders do not. So there's value to those guys. There's value until you can, now they have second round pick exceptions that you can use to sign these guys. It's a little bit easier to sign them. The new rules make use for that. The talent is cheaper, and so that certainly encourages that. You can buy second round picks. That helps too. I mean, it's a little bit of a lot of things there, but that end of the first round is kind of like the worst place to be nowadays. There aren't a lot of hits in the draft. There are more hits at the top. There are some in the middle. By the time you get down into the 20s, it's tough. It gets tough. So the second round picks, it's easier to take a flyer. You can use those to draft and stash somebody and trade rights when you need to attach something. If I was, John Karalis from Greece, that was a fringe NBA prospect, and the Celtics needed to trade, Delano Banton, and accept Portland traded Delano Banton and gave the Celtics the rights to John Karalis in Greece, and there's Jan Madar and there's other Juhan Begoran, those guys have disappeared. No one's really talking about those guys anymore. They may never come and play for the Celtics, but the Celtics have their rights and they're tradable and they're second round picks. So there are a lot of different reasons why that second round pick has become valuable. Larry says, question on the AllStar Game. There was a lot of reporting that the Celtics were trying to get the 2026 AllStar Game, which the Clippers have. Is ownership still in the hunt for a game this decade? Yes, I think they are. They want an All-Star Game in Boston. I think Boston can handle an All-Star Game. The All-Star Game has been in Utah. If you can play an All-Star Game in freaking Utah, you can play it in Boston. It's much more fun in Boston. Sorry, Utah, but you're not known for your parties, and the NBA All-Star Weekend is a party. So if they can do it in Indy, you can do it in Boston. You've done it in Toronto. You've done it in New York when it's been freezing cold. I went to the New York All-Star Game. Oh my God, my face almost fell off. It was cold. So you can do it in the cold. If you wanted to just do warm cities, fine. I understand that, but you don't do that anymore. If you just wanted to do fun cities, fine. But you don't do that anymore either. So Boston has plenty of hotels, plenty of convention space. They've got a casino now. They've got tons to do. So there's certainly no reason for Boston to not get an All-Star Game. I think it's just trying to find the negotiations. The Clippers swooped in because they've got a new arena and the league wants to showcase that. So that's fine. That's a big deal, and I understand that. I'm not mad at that at all. So, but I do expect the Celtics to make a big push, and I think they should get it. The last All-Star Game was in 1964. Larry mentions this in his question. That game was famous for almost not happening because of that's when the Players Association was created. And Bill Russell and Bob Cousy were heavily, heavily involved in that. That's the last time. I guess when you unionize, the league didn't like that, and Boston never got an All-Star game after that. So, oh well. Jared asks, well, he says first, I love when Jaylen plays angry. It's from the same thing from the beginning of the podcast. Jason, too, how does Jayson get more foul calls? I feel the lack of calls discourages him from being aggressive. I don't know about that. I think he's been driving. I think the presence of a rim protector discourages him from getting to the rim. That's part of it, but I think he drives with more force. But the number one thing that he can do to get more foul calls is simply play more off of 2 feet. And what that means is a lot of times he goes in, he's a 1 foot jumper. He's typically a 1 foot, pick it up like you're going in for a layup. He jumps off of 1 foot. That's how he dunks. That's how he goes for layups. That's just that's his style. But when you do that, you're driving towards the basket. And a lot of times when you get fouled gliding towards the basket like that, this has been a thing that's happened over the course of his career. You're a 1 foot jumper, you glide, and he's been doing a great job of getting, not going past the rim like he has in the past. But as you glide and you get hit, your body doesn't move in an obvious way, right? Like you get hit and it's still, your momentum is still going in the same direction. It's a little harder to see the foul from a ref's perspective. It's crowded. You haven't changed directions in a meaningful way. And so I think that's part of it. If he jumps off of 2 feet, what ends up happening is you end up stopping your momentum. There's a little bit more power, but you're not sliding forward. When you take that 1, 2 and you move, you're pushing forward like that. When you take your 1, 2 steps, plant both feet and jump, you're jumping more straight up. But when you jump straight up and then you get hit, all of a sudden your body moves to the side. And it's easier to see, like, oh, boom. Oh, there he goes. He got hit. Boom. That, I think, is going to get him a few more foul calls. He can grift a little bit more, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the big swooping thing to try to draw more fouls. Just go to the front of the rim. There are some games where he gets 12, 14 free throws. There's some games where he gets 2, like he did against Miami. I think if he plays off 2 feet more, it'll change. But that's also not his style. And so it's a give and take. You don't want him to change what he's comfortable with as a player, but you do want him to evolve. And I think playing off of 2 feet is a big element of some of this. Finally, NJ says, Celtics legend Eddie Paladino. Now, if you don't know who Eddie Paladino is, he's the guy whose voice you hear after Jayson Tatum makes a three-pointer and he goes, JT for 3. That's Eddie Paladino. NJ says, does he get any days off during the season? What happens when he gets sick or injured? Who's the backup PA announcer? I don't remember hearing another voice during a Celtics home game other than him, ever. Probably because he doesn't miss games. And I'm not jinxing that. I don't believe in jinxes, but I will be careful. Whatever you need me to, no jinx, whatever, knock on wood. I'm not jinxing it. He's been at this job for 20 years or so. It's not his only job. He has a day job, but he has never missed a game. I don't know who the backup is. I don't know who a backup would be. I don't know if it's like hockey where you have just a random person with a voice up sitting in the stands and be like, oh, you used to do Division II football. You're here in case Eddie Paladino gets laryngitis. The dude is a workhorse, man. He is a legend. He's called every one of these games since 2003, I think. It's really he's been around for a long, long time. So I'm sure they have a backup plan somewhere, but I don't know who it is. And I don't want to ask because I don't want to be the guy that gets that jinx. Remember, I'm only answering a question. So Eddie has been doing a great job. He's got a signature voice. You can hear it in the background there. And I don't know. I don't know how much longer he's got, but he seems to be going strong. He just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Eddie. And I just realized this today. I was looking up the answer here to do a little bit of research. He's an Emerson College guy. I didn't even know that. So shout out to my fellow Emerson College guy. I can't wait to see him again on Wednesday. So I can say, I didn't know you went to Emerson College. So there we go. I knew I liked Eddie for even more than just that reason. All right. Questions again can come into johnkaralis.com/mailbag, johnkaralis.com/mailbag. Ask your questions. Let me know what you're thinking. I try to do this once a week. So because people have a lot of questions and I want to answer them. I'm going to try to do more of these as individual questions and answers in YouTube Shorts. So look for those on the YouTube page. Another reason for you to go sign up on the YouTube page. So do that. If you just want to listen to the audio, go ahead. That exists wherever you get your podcasts. And I would love it if you shared the podcast. Spread the word. Let people know that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.